Welcome to Fine is a four-letter word. My guest today is Don Molnar. Wow, I messed that up. Welcome to Hold on.
No, you're good. And it's Mullarney, if that's helpful.
It's Mullarney.
Mullarney. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. All right. Welcome to Fine is a four-letter word. My guest today is Don Mullarney. Welcome to the show, Don.
Thank you for having me. So good to see you today.
Yeah, we had such a great conversation in our pre-show chat. So I'm really looking forward to what comes out today.
Me too.
And yeah, let's just have some fun and
Okay.
jump right into it and start off with examining the beliefs and the values around how you were raised that contributed to making you who you are today.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, this is kind of a deep question. I would say, my family, it was really all about our family. Every Sunday, we're at my grandma's house. All of my cousins were together. We had a very hard working ethic, I would feel too, that, my dad was always working and he would try and spend as much time as possible with the family. And my mother also, but she stayed home with us a lot because family came first. But also just that work ethic. My dad never took a sick day, would always be driving really early in the morning and being there on time, and just all those different experiences really kind of drove me, but also even to my sister. She was top of the class. She was so smart. She was driven. And I was always kind of that shy one of the childhood. I was shy. I was had some health issues and didn't really like going to school, where honestly, I had to sit in the principal's office for a while in order to continue with school because that's how I had to go in order to be present. And so I just kind of think of weird situations where I got my drive, where I got the family ethic that I have, but also to this restlessness too I don't have. Like we're always busy doing things. We're always doing stuff. Um, so yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, are you the oldest or is she the oldest?
She's the oldest, I'm the youngest.
Okay. All right. And were you sitting in the principal's office because of your health issues or because of some behavioral issues?
My health issues. I actually had ulcers all growing up. So third grade, I was getting horrible ulcers. I was nervous to go to school. Not really sure, but that's how they kind of helped the situation because I was never feeling well. But also, too, I think I didn't want to go and be in the classroom with all the other kids for some reason. It's just kind of weird as I reflect. And now I'm a person that loves connecting with people. Um, but yeah, I don't even know why I even brought that up. But yeah, that was kind of me.
When
Weird
did that
secret.
when did that happen? Like when did that transition happen that you because I was the same way. Like I was super shy as a kid. And did not like talking to people I didn't know. Around people like family, you couldn't shut me up. But
Mm.
around people I didn't know, I was so shy. And then the minute my parents dropped me off at college and drove away, I went straight to the TV station because that's what I was majoring in at the time when I started was broadcast. I went straight to the TV station and then I went to the radio station and I got myself a show, on the college radio station.
Awesome.
But that to me was kind of a transitional moment. I was still a shy person, but I was left and then I had to speak for myself at that point and kind of became more, I don't want to say outgoing, maybe that's the right word. But
Yeah.
what was it for you?
Well, kind of similar. My sister talked a lot, so she would even order food for me. She would, complete the sentences for me sometimes, whatnot. I was just quiet. But yeah, when I went to college, so I actually got a job on campus. And so I actually moved in before everybody else moved into their dorm. I was working on campus and meeting some of the older students, and it was kind of that moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm on my own. I have to show up as me. No one knows me, too.
Right?
You know,
You
that
could
was
make
another
yourself into whoever
factor.
you wanted to be.
Yeah. And I think that was also the part of maybe why I love meeting people because they don't know all of my past. Not saying it's a horrible past or anything, but it's just like you can start fresh with people and you can build that trust and connect with people. And but it was that pivotal moment when I went to college and realized I had a voice, realized too that I could make new friends. I
Hmm.
the world was my oyster kind of in a way. Like I could stay up late, I could do what I wanted. And there was a lot of exploring, I feel like, during that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're in an exploring time now as well in your
Yeah.
life. What led to this now? Like what happened in between then and now? What was that journey like to bring you to where you are today?
Mm. Well, I won't keep you all day. No, but I'll do a shortened version. Right out of college, I mean, that too, when I was getting to my senior year, gosh, I wanted to get out. I was ready for the next stage. I feel like that too is always the thing of the next stage, the new thing. So right out of college, I started working and I was in construction and was in an office and knew the ins and outs and was learning so many new things. And I had two desks and I was being sent to corporate to cover for people because I was so well trained on all the different things. And then I didn't see really much opportunity to learn and grow. I wanted to do sales. I wanted to go out to the job sites. I wanted to do the different things on the job sites because I didn't know anything about it. Well, they didn't really want that. They wanted me in the office where I was doing a ton of things. And so I took a drastic leap and took a teller bank job to get my foot in the door, to learn new things, see a different world, and quickly moved up into the executive wing. Got really efficient in that area where I was going down part time. And so then wealth management had this new position they were creating where no one had ever done it before and met with the leader of the department. And he's like, "You're hired, come join us." And I just kind of, as I'm like reflecting on a lot of things, it's just like I love new things or being curious and seeing how I could learn. What opportunities is there for me to bring my strengths or my skill set and keep improving? And so I was in wealth management for 8 years. I was that yes girl, let's say, where if you give me opportunity, I'm going to do it even if I'm challenged, maybe I don't know it. Maybe it was going to the events or meeting our top clients, meeting our referral partners, asking for that sale. I would just do it. I wanted to keep trying and I wanted to be challenged. And um, I became a mother. And during that, too, was a pivotal time, too, for me of like, okay, I got to still keep growing in my career, but now I have this child. And um, I realized I didn't want to stay at home. I wanted to be a working mom and to show him the things and working hard and the drive. And I think that's where it just goes back to my family of my dad
Yeah.
who worked all the time. And um, unfortunately, I missed a lot of my son's childhood as I reflect a lot about it. I was the person that would take on a lot of work. So I would go into the office really early to cover for other people when we lost some staff. I would work all day. I would go to events all night because I was building my network. I wanted to be present. I wanted to
Yeah.
show that I was a leader. And yeah, I had a pivotal moment. I think COVID, I think really opened a lot of people's eyes, but I also
Yeah, for
had my
sure.
own health hiccup that really kind of opened my eyes of like life is short. What are you doing? So,
Yeah, I want to get back to that in a second, but from what I'm
yeah.
hearing you say, as you just described that journey, you have taken on the role of being a trailblazer in a lot of
Hmm.
what you've done. And I heard you say a couple of times you covered for people.
I
You
did.
were the one, like, all right, if they're not going to do it, I'm going to take it. I'll do it. I got it. I got it. Which
Yeah.
a lot of people listening, I think, have done the same thing. Like, no worries. I got it. I got it. I got it. Like, I can take on everybody's stuff and make sure all the plates are spinning until they're not. Which brings us
Yes.
to now. What happened?
Yeah. Well,
What
I
was
was
your
kind of,
body telling you? Your mind wasn't you probably knew. Wait, but Well, I have two questions, but go on
No, yeah, go for it.
because your body was speaking to you probably through, I'm guessing, like something that you needed to hear that you were not paying attention to.
Oh yeah. And I was having like I was getting to the point where I had daily headaches every day that I didn't even know what a normal day was without a headache.
Mm,
Um, and I was kind of that girl where people even knew it. Like I got shit done. Like you give it to
hmm.
Dawn, she'll get it done. Don't worry
Right.
about it. And she'll figure out how to get it done. She'll add it to her plate. She'll just keep moving ahead. And I just think sometimes, yeah, my body all of a sudden, I would need a sick day and I would be laying in bed all day because I was exhausted, or my body couldn't keep up with my
Right.
brain at times.
Well, right. You were asking more of it than it was capable of giving. Like we forget sometimes that these are machines and they
Hmm.
need, like any other machine, they need oil and fuel and all, which doesn't include just the food as fuel. It's all of the care.
Yeah, time and energy, or just even disconnecting, and taking a vacation and not
Yeah.
thinking about work. But,
Yeah.
I'm the type where I'm even in the shower and I'm thinking of all the things that I got to do, and,
Yep.
how I'm going to get it done. And yeah, there's never a moment to breathe. But yeah, that's just me though, too.
So then what happened? Your body said, how did it communicate with you?
Yeah. So, not to get too deep in the weeds, but it took us a long time to realize like we wanted to grow our family and wanted
Mm.
to have another child. It took a while for us to make that decision, like, okay, we're going to try and have another child. Well, I did get pregnant, but unfortunately, I had an ectopic pregnancy. And so that's where it's in your fallopian tube. And so this is during COVID. It was like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden you need to rush to the hospital now. You need chemo, or this could burst and you could die and you could bleed to death. So I had to rush to the hospital, get a chemo treatment. My husband couldn't come with me because it was during COVID. So I had to have chemo in order to dissolve the pregnancy. And of course, um, I would say, did it not work? Oh, that's okay. No, it's fine because all of a sudden you disappeared. Oh, now you're gone.
Are you still okay?
I'm here. Is it working?
It started recording again. So this will be in two pieces.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Go
No, it's
on.
good. Where would you like me to, I guess, do you want me to go back any further or?
Yeah. Do you want to start with the beginning of that story
Sure.
of
Um,
ectopic pregnancy during COVID, rush to the hospital.
yeah. So I had to rush to the hospital during COVID and go get chemo. So chemo is kind of their way of how to handle an ectopic pregnancy to dissolve the baby instead of it growing and getting bigger in your fallopian tube. It's like that or surgery. And so rushed to the hospital, had the chemo. Kind of normally, chemo really helps and dissolves the baby quickly, but for sometimes it doesn't. And so, what did I do? I kind of, had the chemo treatment and just went back to normal life. I didn't talk to people about it. I didn't really want anybody to know what I just went through. And because of that, and just I went back and did my normal self of work, work, work. I couldn't dissolve the baby. And so I was getting, tests every week, and they're like, your numbers aren't going down, like whatnot. And then all of a sudden, I ended up in the ER. And so in the ER, they're like, you need to relax. I forget all the details. But, anyways, I had to go back again to the ER. And then they finally admitted me to the hospital. But in this meantime, this was kind of a pivotal moment, I feel like, for me. But here I am getting an ultrasound because they needed to check on it, check my body. But during that, I was on my phone working because I had an event that day that I was hosting. And oh my gosh, now I got to hurry up and try and cancel this. I don't have anybody else that can cancel it for me. And here I am, like in an ultrasound, losing a baby, got chemo. You could be dying, or, like it could burst at any moment. You could die, or, maybe I wouldn't have. But also, too, then I was sent to, I was admitted to the hospital and they had me relax. Can you just like sleep? We're giving you medicine. You need to relax. We need to try and see if your body can dissolve this pregnancy or else you're going in for surgery. Okay. So I was there for 2 days, I think. And we're finally to that pivotal moment of Dawn, you're finally dissolving the baby. Because what did I do? I just slept the whole time I was there. And my husband was able to come and check on me one time during that. And so they're like, call your husband. He's going to come get you. Like, he can come get you in a couple hours. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I call him, tell him, hey, I get to go home. But shortly after that, they gave me some more medicine. And all of a sudden, my whole left side of my body went numb. And so I told the woman that. And all of a sudden, now I have the stroke unit around me. I could hear
Oh,
the people
geez.
rushing down the hallway. And like I just have blinders on because I can just even hear it now and see it. And all these people are surrounding me. They thought I had a stroke. So then
Wow.
now I'm getting sent to get all these other scans. Now I'm in the stroke unit. So that was a really pivotal moment where in the end they realized I have a migraine syndrome. So if I'm under a lot of stress, I will have a stroke-like symptom. So anyways, from that I took a leave, didn't relax during that leave, and the
Come on.
doctors too were like, I know, it was
You
hard.
were near death, essentially. Like,
Hmm.
and you were still working. Like, that would have been your last moment is, I'm still working, though. I got this event. The event's going to come off great, and then I'm going to, yeah, it'll be over. But the event went off great. I
Yep,
mean,
I know.
I'm making light of it now. I know it's not, and it was a serious situation, but it seems in hindsight like so ridiculous that you were willing to sacrifice your life to make sure business went on as it was, and it wasn't even your business.
Right, it wasn't. And I was just, even during that time, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll see some friends that I haven't seen in forever, or oh, I'll make these connections. And I couldn't even sit still. And then too, the doctors and everybody, and I just feel like they're so used to things like this that they even too didn't even help me. Like, maybe you should probably relax, or
Mm.
do this and for a bit. And when I finally hit like the end of my medical leave, it kind of finally clicked like what just I went through. I didn't have any time to grieve or to understand what just happened. And then I kind of had my breaking moment. So that week after, I remember kind of just being in bed and not doing anything and kind of taking in this whole moment of like, what just happened? But after that was kind of a pivotal moment for me of like, life is short and
Mm.
I keep running so fast. And I also just kind of realized the situation that I was in, and then just kind of a lot of light bulbs finally went off for myself, where normally I'm one that loves to help other people, but I don't do well at helping myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of the gist of it, but I also kind of made a drastic moves shortly after all of those kind of things.
Yeah, so it sounds like you reached this point where most people would have been like, "All right, this is it. This is the pivotal moment." But it wasn't for you because you were like, "Nope, I'm going to still keep going
Yeah.
until what finally had to happen to get you to stop and go, "Wait a minute. This is my life. I get to run it how I want to run it, and I don't have to be this way." And
Yeah.
I'm going to stop and finally listen to that inner voice that's talking to me before it puts me to the edge of death.
Yeah. I know. Things. Why do we not listen to those cues? Well, I would say
Because
shortly
we all
after
want to
the,
run on our own view. Like, I got
yeah,
this. I got this. We want, because we've been trained since birth practically to believe that we can power through everything and that our worth and our value is tied to our productivity.
yes, it is. I mean, that's where too, I just don't even know how to sit still or how to even be bored, you
Mm.
know? Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I would say after that, I hit the 10-year mark at the bank, and I was offered to lead a women's organization, and I thought, heck yeah, let me learn, grow, see what other opportunities that I can add to my toolbox of knowledge. So I took over a women's organization, and then shortly after, one of my clients had always been asking me to come join them, and finally I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I want to see what other culture is like. I want to be challenged. I want to use my brain differently. I'm not ready to start my own business yet. So I'm going to try this. And
Hmm.
so I left my 10-year career. I left a podcast behind. There's things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. But I did. And I felt really proud of myself to take that big leap after something too I was so comfortable with. And I knew the
Mm.
ins and outs of everything. And now I'm going, oh gosh, back to ground zero because it was a total new industry. So I did that for a year, and I kept having this itch of like, you need to do your own thing. Life is short. This last year, 3 women that were acquaintances passed away in their 40s. And that was kind of another
Wow.
pivotal moment for me. Like,
Yeah.
wow, that could be me. I'm not at
Right.
40 yet, but I almost am. And my role was really evolving, I would say, at my job. Um, when you switch careers like that, you kind of sometimes find out strengths and skills that you didn't really think were strengths and skills
Hmm.
and realize, like, oh, not everybody knows how to do this. And it was moments where they're like, you're great at sales. I think you should do sales. And something in my heart was like, I can't do this. I don't want to. And
Hmm.
I don't want to
Yeah.
help the big get bigger. I just wanted to just
Right.
live
Right.
life.
Yeah. And I think just for a quick second to point out,
Yeah.
I don't know that you couldn't do it. It was what you said secondly was it's not in my heart to do this. I'm sure you could
Yeah.
have done it if you wanted
Put
to.
my mind to it
Because
and
you've done all these other things that you didn't know how to do before you started doing them.
yeah.
But now you were listening to your heart and said,
Yes.
yes, I could, and I choose not to.
Yeah. And I would say I kind of had those conversations too with my husband of like, this is just not fueling me. Like
Mm,
I know I can do it, but I just know in my heart I can't lead on this path where not that I was lying, but just I knew I had more for myself that I
yeah.
needed to go and try something different.
Yeah, that you were finally putting yourself first.
Yeah. And my family too, because I just,
Yeah.
at my when I switched to my client, I took a vacation, and they actually let me take a vacation. And I hadn't really ever had that moment. And I remember coming to my coach and telling her it was so weird for me. I didn't know what to do with myself. Like they told
Hmm.
me to disconnect, to take vacation, which is what I always tell everybody else to do, but I could never do it in the past. And I said, that was the first time for me. And she's like, yeah, that is a first time for you. And that was a learning opportunity. And I think for me, it was just things that made me realize of just my own work ethic and how I've held myself back from
Hmm.
getting to enjoy life or to be present with my family and to not always think about work. Um, so yeah, I left that job, didn't have a full out plan, but knew in my heart there was more and I needed time to figure it out. And I took, the mindset of what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could
Mm.
happen deep down if I leave this corporate job? Life isn't all about money. Yes, it does help, but what's the worst? I lose my house? I don't think that would ever happen. I would ask my family for help or we would figure it
Right,
out and
right.
I'd get another job. So, yeah, so I made a very drastic move in November.
Once you start looking at all of those questions and really facing them, like
Mm,
what's the worst, and going down that path and going, okay, yeah, that could happen, but it's not very likely. And if it
yeah.
did, I could do this other thing, or this other thing would happen. Like people are afraid that they're going to end up living on the street and going to like the absolute worst case. But when you play it all out, you're like, yeah, but that wouldn't happen because, and that wouldn't happen because, and then you can start looking at it as, okay, let's switch this around. What if? What's the best thing that could happen? Because we tend to do that, is go down the worst case scenario and not even consider the equal, if not more likely situation that it will be better. What's the best thing that could happen? And start asking those questions of ourselves.
And I think that's even too something like, as I reflect through all the things of like growing up, it's always like focusing on the things you're not good at. And that's where even too, like when I switched that job, it was like focusing on like, oh my gosh, I am really good at certain things, and how can I even excel at the things that I'm really good at? Where before it was always like, oh, I'm not good at that, and it was always kind of that thing that I felt like, really makes people not as motivated or not as inspired because they're always focusing on the negative instead of the positive. And that's kind of one of my top strengths too, is just the positivity of things. But I never did that for myself always, and focus on like, you're really good at this. What could happen? I think that's the world's our oyster. You never know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are you good at things that you love doing? Because those are two different things. Because again, you could be really good at something and not enjoy it.
Yeah. So that's been kind of, I feel this time that I've been in is this learning time because being that past yes girl to everything is, I did have a lot of things that I know how to do or I know how to excel at and I would get done. Where for me, I sometimes have never even had the opportunity to say like, what does Dawn really want to do? What really lights Dawn up? Because I've never really had that moment to think like, what is really my zone of genius? What is something that like I love doing, I know I'm good at, and I could do every day? I've never really had that time to reflect
and that's what you have the time now.
Yeah.
So first of all, congratulations for being courageous to take that time now. Because we have talked in this season of Fine is a Four-Letter Word. I'm primarily talking to people who have taken a sabbatical or are in the midst of it, which is where you are right now, in the midst of this sabbatical and figuring out what is the next thing. What's the next step? And that's scary too. We talked about that in our first conversation too. And you are struggling with the allowing yourself to just be, because your habit is to jump in and do, like set up appointments with people all day and constantly be going and not allowing yourself. You have this time, you've taken this time for sabbatical, and then having struggled to allow yourself to enjoy it.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest challenges for me. I think I knew I was always a high achiever, always a people pleaser. Restlessness always kind of was higher up in my PQ. And I always thought, well, that's not really me. But deep down is one thing that I realized is like, I really am restless. Like I don't know how to just be and be okay and not take on 20 million things. And like this time of just even being present with my family and actually just putting my feelers out there and seeing where it would come back. I feel like now we're finally getting to that boomerang point where it's like, see, Dawn, this is why you needed to just be, or you wouldn't have had these opportunities, or you wouldn't have had this client that you're getting to work with. Where before I just always run so fast that I would miss on different opportunities. And so I'm very grateful, for my family and for my husband to be so understanding of this too, that I needed this time. And it's unfortunate that it took me this long to realize how I needed this time to just be.
Yeah. Okay. However, you mentioned a few minutes ago that you are just approaching 40. So it took you a lot less time than it's taken a lot of other people. Not that this is a comparison kind of thing. I'm just saying better you realize it now than some people don't realize it until they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s. And no, none of us know how much time we have.
Yeah.
And so, again, just coming back to the whole idea of it took you however long it took you. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
not beat yourself up for it took you this amount of time, because this is your path. It took you whatever it took. And now you have this awesome opportunity to
Yeah.
change here, because this is all
And
we have is right now.
right now. And I think that's where even too for me, it's been this time where I'm realizing more of my habits or my things that I've always just done in the past. Like how you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
filling my calendar up. I have done those things, and I'm like, why do I do this to myself, And it's some of the stuff that we've just been trained for so long. And the
Yeah.
expectations are just, I feel like too, now that it's been hard for me to relax during this time too, of just all the things that I've done over time. It's like I feel like I was put on this pedestal that
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting on myself, but also maybe some
Right.
other people do too of me, of like, well, what do you mean you don't have it all figured out yet? I just like, I too kind of have that expectation of myself that I should kind of have everything figured out and know. But like someone told me one day, once you have everything figured out or everything, then wow, you must be dead, because there's always room for
Right.
opportunity to continuously learn and experience new things. And so that's where I just have to tell myself that
Mm-hmm.
I like, it's okay. You're
Yeah.
fine. You're doing great. And yeah, take it day by day.
Yeah. You're better than fine, because fine is a four-letter word.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
It's I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today that I met up with for coffee. Actually, she and I were in a networking group together 10 years ago, and she happened to come across my business card a few weeks ago, and she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm curious what you're doing now. Let's get together."
Yeah.
And so we were talking about life being an experiment. And
Ooh,
yeah.
tell me more.
And looking at it this way, and she was like, "Oh, that's so good. That's a great way to look at it. That it's all just an experiment. And some things will work out the way you planned them to or expected them to, and some things won't. And typically, when you look at those things that didn't turn out the way you were expecting, you call it a failure. However, if it's an experiment, it's just like, oh, well, that didn't get the result I was thinking, but okay." And then you can move on to the next thing or take a different direction or whatever it is. But if we look at it all as just a big experiment.
Yeah. And I think that's been the thing too for me, is like everybody wants you to do it a certain way. Like life isn't a cookie cutter. There is no
Right.
set way. And I think that's been too for me, of you don't have to follow what everybody else thinks you need to do. Or, and that's where it's just been eye opening for me too, of like, do what you feel is right in your heart, in your gut.
Yeah.
Do you know that you'll make the biggest impact, or that it's going to fuel you? Great. Who cares what everybody else thinks?
100%. Who cares what everybody else thinks? Because you're the only one living your life. And you're
Hmm.
the only one that knows when this is why you need to get quiet enough. You, I say you, I mean
Yeah,
everybody
me.
listening too. Quiet enough to hear that inner voice, to know which direction to take. And
Yeah.
when we keep ourselves so busy doing all the time, that prevents us from hearing that inner voice. And I think that some people do that as a way to prevent themselves from hearing their inner voice, because they're afraid what the inner voice is going to tell them. What if the
Mm,
inner voice tells me something that everybody else around me isn't going to agree with or
yeah.
isn't going to approve of? Well, then what do I do? Because you know that that's your truth, and you're going to
Hmm.
have to do it anyway. And I don't want to disappoint people. At the same time, you're going to be disappointing yourself if you don't, and that's an even bigger deal.
Yeah. Because that too, where I knew I
And
would
so
have
kudos to
regretted
you.
myself. Yeah. If I didn't have
Yeah.
taken that leap or switch things, because I knew I would regret myself.
Yeah, yeah. So I am eager to hear, in a follow up, what you end up doing. And oh, the other thing I just heard you say too was having a big impact, like doing something that would have a big impact. And what if what you started out doing wasn't that big? Like, would that be
Mm,
okay? If it was following and being true to yourself and it wasn't a big thing, would that be okay?
yeah. Well, I think that's where even just recently I had quite the big aha moment of myself, or just what am I supposed to be doing, you know? And my coach had me draw out this picture of like, what is the future state that you would love to see yourself? You know, what are you
Mm.
doing? How are you feeling? And then it was like, what's your current state? You know, and then in the middle, it's like, okay, so what's the bridge in between those two things? And the one thing that I realized through this as I was drawing and laying it all out is I like being the sunshine for others. Like, I
Mm.
love spreading my rays onto other people. Everybody is going to have those peaks where they're going up the mountain, going down to the valleys. They're going to go on a road that they think is going to go the right way, but really in the end, they might take a curve and go a different way. But deep down, what do they need? Sun to always keep coming back to them, to light them up, and to keep them going. And so that's where deep down for me, I don't know what my exact path is supposed to be, but I'm okay with that. But deep down,
Mm.
just keep lighting other people and showing up as my best self. Then what else do you need? So I think
Yeah.
that's where I just keep thinking of that random visual I drew out the one day. And then I finally had the aha moment of like, I'm the Ray. I don't know, something about that. So that's where I
Yeah.
think you can't ever define success because you don't really know what it could be, but just keep showing up as your best self.
I love that. That's incredible. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing all this. This has been such a good conversation. Now, when you need an extra ray of sunshine and a
Mm.
boost of energy, what is the song that you listen to? What's your hype song?
Ooh, so this was a hard question for me when you asked me this. And so I did slow down because I think normally my brain is go, 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 keep
Mm-hmm.
running, don't give up. But I think sometimes slowing down, being present, being in the moment, seeing what opportunities are out there is going to help you get there faster. And so
Yeah.
that's where I picked slow down. It was a hard, that was a hard project for me. I'm not going to lie, Lori. But I finally figured out, like when I was going through some of my favorite songs, it was slow down. So yeah.
Very cool. I will put a link to that in the show notes so people can listen to it. And what I will also put in the show notes is how people can get in touch with you if they want to continue the conversation. So, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So they can feel free to email me, look me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And I'm also in the process of launching my own podcast. I've always done one for my past life in corporate, but I'm actually going to do my own because I really want to help shine light on other people. And so that will be launching soon. So Determined to Succeed will be coming out soon.
Sweet. We'll look forward to that. Thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a Four Letter Word.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was lovely. Thank you.